Are you looking to buy a Peugeot e-2008? Well, if you are, you may want to watch this video till the end, because in this video, I'm gonna go through the good, the bad, and the ugly about the e-2008. This is quite a cool car with a lot of cool and amazing features, but it does have some very weird quirks. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys the things you should know before going out and purchasing an e-2008. So I highly recommend you to watch this video till the very end. Peugeot is part of the PSA group, and that means that this e-2008 has some siblings, some relatives, some corporate cousins, because the PSA group consists of Peugeot, Citroën, DS, and as of late, Opel or Vauxhall, depending on what market you are purchasing your car. So this is closely related to the e-208, the e-Corsa, the DS3 E10s, and the brand new EC4. So all of those cars are for the same 45 net kilowatt hour battery pack, combined with the front motor 136 horsepower and around the same range, WLTP between like 300 and 340, 350, and the same charging speed of 100 kilowatts, which we are going to put to the test later in this video. So, you know, you have some flavor, some different flavors to choose from while looking at this car. So I would look at those competitors to see if the e-2008 fits you better, or maybe you want a smaller car, or maybe a bigger car like an EC4. The e-2008 is actually very competitively priced. Here in Norway, it starts at 307,000 kroners, and for that money, well, there aren't that many competitors. You have something like the Kona Electric, starts at more than 350,000 kroners. You have the e-Niro, which is similar money, and then you have something like the ID3 from Volkswagen, which is also more than 350,000 kroners. Heck, you can actually spec a top-of-the-line GT pack trim with all the boxes ticked off for the same price as the competitor's starting price. That is insane. Yes, this does have a smaller battery, meaning less range. Those cars have somewhere in the range of 400 to 480, maybe 90 kilometers of WLTP range. But not all people are looking for a car with long range. If you want to save some money, you can get this for considerably less money, and you have the same size car. It's about the same size as those competitors. It's a crossover like those cars. And I know the ID3 is a hatchback, but yeah, you have that raised riding position, that raised ride height with that, you know, heightened ingress regress, and it is the same shape and size. So I would consider that almost a, you know, a crossover at this point. But this at 300,000 kroner starting price, well, it seems like quite a bargain. On the motorway, the e-2008 is surprisingly quiet and comfortable, but it only has 136 horsepower, so it is a bit lackluster, you know, while accelerating and passing, so it's not the best motorway cruiser for that reason. And also, you know, as I said, it doesn't have the best range. The competitors like the ID3, the Kona, and also the e-Niro have longer range and, you know, are much better suited for longer distance and motorway driving. But where this car really shines is in city driving, because it's a perfect size. It's nicely damped in the suspension. The steering is nice and light but precise, and the insulated sound experience, the insulated driving experience you get on the motorway is even elevated that more here in the city. It really is a beautiful city runabout, and you know that range really doesn't matter in the city, because you're not going that far. And I did, you know, the city range cold weather test, and I estimated you could go like 170 kilometers on a single charge in the city. So driving it in the city and owning this and using it in the city, and of course medium distance also, is really where this car shines. It's the sweet spot of this E2008. Okay, so looks are of course always subjective, but in my humble opinion, I think the E2008 is a very sharp and smart looking small crossover. I love the way it looks. You know, these cool LED strips down here like a saber tooth. You have this beautiful blue color, the blue details here in the grille. I just like the stance and the presence of this, and it actually looks much bigger on the outside than it actually is. It has some real road presence, this. I do like it a lot, and especially compared to, well, the competitors. As I said, the Kona Electric, well, isn't a bad looking thing. I don't think the e-Niro is especially a good looking car. It's non-offensive, but a bit boring. And then you have the ID.3, which I actually think is very good looking, but I think this just takes it. This is the best looking small SUV on the market today, in my opinion. I really do like it. And then you have the interior, which in my opinion just is miles better than those three cars I just mentioned. Especially the ID.3 has a very cheap, plasticky feeling and Spartan interior. You know, Koreans have nice enough interiors, but this just takes it to another level. The way it looks with that faux carbon fiber, and also these beautiful like Alcantara material seats, and yeah, just the way the whole cabin looks, the design, and also the way it's put together is just much better than the competitors. There are actually two different ways I would recommend speccing an E2008, and I'm going to show you guys both versions here, and then it's up to you which one you would choose. So the first one I'm going to recommend is the base active model. Starts at 282,900, so we're going to choose that one, but that is with the diesel. If we click over to the electric version, that is 307,900, so we're going to choose that. And then I'm going to choose this gray color, gray Artense. I think that is a nice color. And then we're just going to go continue. It comes with no options on the interior. And then I'm going to skip the roof rails. I'm going to skip the tinted windows. Of course, that isn't too much. But what I'm going to choose is that I am going to choose the heated front window for 2,080 kroners. And then you have the first recommendation. That is a base model E2008, but it gives you, you know, the essence of the car, but with no options at all. And for 330,420, that is quite a bargain. And then we're going to go for the other configuration I would choose, and I would go back and I would just go ahead and skip the Allure, skip the GT, and go ahead with the GT pack. 354,900. Choose this version, yes. And then I would go ahead and choose the same gray color with these 18-inch wheels. It's very nice. And then I would just go ahead and choose the standard fabric Alcantara light colored gray interior, which is the same spec I have in this. The Nappa leather is probably nice at 14,000 kroners. I think it is a bit pricey in a car at this price point, and it is black. I'm not a huge fan of dark interiors. So I would choose, skip all of this, and I would get the heated front window. Again, I would skip the panoramic sunroof. I think it's a bit expensive at 11,200. I would skip the wireless charging pad because this car doesn't have wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. You have to plug your phone in to get CarPlay, so you're going to be connected with your phone either way. It comes standard with the 10.1-inch infotainment system, but you're going to use your Apple CarPlay. But it's still nice to have that screen. And then you have your fully spec E2008 GT pack without a sunroof, though, for 360,000 kroners with 18-inch wheels and this beautiful color. And I think for that price point, yeah, that is quite a bargain. This car has a net battery capacity of 45 kilowatt hours, and it actually has a gross capacity of 50 kilowatt hours, but that really doesn't matter because what is important is your net capacity, that is the usable battery capacity, and in this car, as I said, that is 45 kilowatt hours. And WLTP claimed that this car can go 320 kilometers on a single charge, but according to the tests I have done, the Norwegian high-speed run, the cold weather motorway test, the cold weather city test, I wasn't able to get close to that number. So that 320 kilometer range, that is under ideal conditions, 40 and 50 kilometers an hour in summer temperature. So in the real world, especially now in winter, you can see somewhere in the ballpark of 140 to 210, 220, depending on conditions and also the speed you are going at. And if you're interested in seeing the range tests I have done, I'm going to link them in the description down below. And then you have the charging speed. We are now connected to a 50 kilowatt charger, so we are not getting the maximum speed that this car can get. And Peugeot claim a maximum peak speed of 100 kilowatts. And that is the maximum, that is the peak speed. And yeah, that again is only under ideal conditions, under when the battery is hot enough, when the ambient temperature is hot enough. And I really tried, I did a state to charge test where I charged from 10 to 80% state to charge. That is also linked in the description box down below if you haven't seen that video. And I tried yo-yoing it, and yo-yoing it is an EV term where you're trying to load the battery as much as possible. So you're generating heat within the battery. That is, warming up the battery internally by doing that. And that means, well, you connect to a charger, you will most likely get a better charging speed. So I tried yo-yoing it, I tried driving it for a long time, loading the battery as much as possible. And even though I did that as much as I could, I still only got a maximum charging speed around 85, 86 kilowatts. And then you have something like a charge curve on this car. I'm going to overlay it here. So you have that maximum speed at a low state of charge, and it will just dip down as the state of charge, increases. So those are things to know and consider that the dealer won't tell you, that the people selling the car won't tell you, and normal motor journalists who test these cars don't test and won't tell you. The digital gauge cluster and the infotainment system here in the E2008 is quite a mixed bag. We can start off with the infotainment system, which is 10.1 inches across, and it is ultra widescreen, meaning that the height of the screen really isn't that much, even though the display is 10.1 inches. And then you can see the navigation map here is also quite small because you have this bar down here with information, and then you have these huge sidebars here, or rather bezels on the screen where the interior temperature is. So the map ends up being quite small. And then to change the temperature, you press there, and then you get up this new screen, and then you have to move your hand all the way over here to adjust the temperature. That isn't optimal while driving. Why didn't they just put it here? Or even better, why didn't they just have a plus and minus button here? While using this much real estate, it doesn't make any sense at all. And then there's the response, which is actually quite snappy, but you have these stupid touch buttons down here, which, work sometimes well. And then they're here instead of up here. Why didn't they just put it here? Here there is like a lip. They could put it here. But fortunately, the saving grace of this infotainment system is Apple CarPlay. So you can use the Google Maps, you can use the Spotify, you can use everything, because the built-in navigation isn't good at all. I mean, it's very hard to use. You can't even search for, we can try searching for a charging station. We can go Circle, I'll probably find a Circle K in Sandvika. Let's see. But searching for another charging station, you have to put in a charging station. Yeah, it can't even find Circle K Sandvika. And that's a gas station, guys, with a charging station, of course, but I can't find that. Can't find it, so you have to, you know, put in, it's not a point, yeah, if you go point of interest, it will find it. Okay. Why don't they just, so this is address and this is point of interest. Why does it separate the searching terms there? That is just weird. But yeah, the saving grace is using Apple CarPlay, so you can go, where do you go? Down here, and then Apple CarPlay. And then you have the digital gauge cluster, which actually is quite cool. It has a 3D effect. So you have a piece of glass in front of the LCD screen, which projects an image onto the glass. So this middle section here is actually on the glass, and this right and left section here is behind this glass. You can see it better. You can see that up there. There's projecting the screen to the display. It's not really easy to see the 3D effect, but I think it's quite cool. But it has some serious frame rate issues. So check this out, guys. So I'm going to just adjust these settings. Look at that. Look at the frame rate issues. And look how laggy and slow that is. So they went with these cool animations. But yeah, it's just super laggy, dropping the frame rates like crazy. And then you have another thing. So this car doesn't have a state to charge readout. You have this readout here with estimated range left, which isn't accurate at all. It's super inaccurate. And you know, when you're down in the red there, that looks like 10-12%, the car will go into almost like panic mode, and it will, you know, tell you to charge. It will tell you have 2 kilometers of range left, while in the reality you might have like 20 kilometers. So it's super inaccurate. But if I turn off the ignition, because I am connected to a charger, okay, if I turn off the ignition like that, yeah, and also the buttons here is super slow to respond. Okay, so then we get a state to charge readout there on the right side. Look at that. But only when we're charging. So nowhere in the infotainment system, nowhere on the digital gauge cluster do you get a readout for state to charge. And then you have the third really weird quirk, and that is, look at the consumption there, guys. So if we just keep an eye on that, we are currently stationary and we are charging. Let's see. Look at that, guys, it drops. This is the only car that lowers the consumption while charging. Why does it do that? That makes no sense at all. The e-2008 was born in France, the home of the small hatchback. So it's no wonder at all that this car is such a good city car, and even at medium distance, it is very good. It's first when you start comparing it to the cars that offer, you know, 400 and 500 kilometer range that it, you know, kind of starts falling apart, but it is considerably cheaper than those cars. So you really can't compare to those cars because this does sit in a different bracket in my opinion. But if Peugeot were to come out with a bigger battery variant of this, something like a 65 kilowatt hour battery pack, this would be perfect at about 50,000 kroners more with that battery pack. Yeah, this would be the best car at that price point because it looks better than the competition, it drives as good, but it has a much nicer interior. It has a few, you know, strangeness when it comes to the infotainment and the digital gauge cluster that can be fixed with software, and I hope Peugeot do that because the rest of this car, the package, is so good. I'm a huge fan. I really do like this car. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.